stand back, rescind this absurd, illegal, and immoral order. Let our military go home. The absurdity of threatening the people of the United States of America with their own military, our proud military.
A few moments later.
The judge has denied the state of California's request to stop Trump from using the California National Guard to keep the peace and keep order during these protests. CNN's Elena Treen is at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where President Trump is speaking. And Elena, that's a big development, the judge denying California's request. Tell us about that, and tell us what the president has been saying in his Fort Bragg speech.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge deal for the president here and his administration. And we heard just moments ago the president saying that he wants to liberate Los Angeles and really attacking Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Bass for the way that they've been responding to him calling in the National Guard and the Marines to go and try and quell these protests.
I know this is a crazy radical idea, guys. But maybe if Gavin Newsom fought as hard to actually stop the violent rioting in his state as he did to, of course, sue and grandstand against Donald Trump, perhaps we would not be in this entire situation to begin with. Perhaps it would not even be a debate whether National Guard ought to be deployed to stop the Los Angeles riots, because they would have never become riots in the first place if Gavin Newsom really meant what he said when he tried to argue that LAPD and local law enforcement had the situation under control, which they obviously and evidently never did. But with that said, today we got to bring you the full story and the hilarious conclusion as the Gavin Newsom lawsuit against Donald Trump goes horribly wrong. Of course, generally speaking, I think a lot of us Trump supporters have PTSD whenever we hear a Democrat figure bringing a lawsuit for temporary injunctive relief or a restraining order against the Trump administration. You think to yourself, here we go again. Here's the judicial lawfare. They're going to try to block what Trump is doing by a district court, and then it's going to go higher. But ladies and gentlemen, apparently as of today, that is not the case because Gavin Newsom's little lawsuit against Trump has hilariously failed. And apparently now he's having such a crazy mental breakdown about all of it that he is now going out and fuming over a phone call and like time zones or something. And if you're like, what are you even talking about, Vince? Well, we'll show you, right, how ridiculously petty and deranged Gavin Newsom is acting. But first, folks, before we get into all of it, do us a big favor here. Make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. You subscribing is, of course, the best way to support these videos and ensure that we can keep bringing you this coverage. And with that said, so let's, of course, start with what Gavin Newsom's been saying over the past few days, which is National Guard in American cities. I'm going to sue Trump. Now, just to be clear, guys, it is, of course, the truth that the president does have the authority to federalize National Guard. This has been done before. But even specifically, I'd like to point out here that the reason the National Guard are actually being deployed and what they've been used for, at least thus far in LA, was actually to protect federal officers and federal facilities, right? We're using federal forces to protect feds because, after all, as you saw on Friday and Saturday night, the LAPD do not have the situation under control. They completely dropped the ball when it came to defending the ICE who were getting surrounded and swarmed at the government facilities, of course, on Friday. And so there's a very common sense decision. And of course, the argument here made by the Trump administration to the courts is that what Gavin Newsom is trying to do is put our federal officers or ICE agents actively in danger, because if you take away their actual line of defense from the violent mobs, what do you think is going to happen, considering, again, LAPD simply does not have the situation under control? Nonetheless, Gavin Newsom just a couple of hours ago today put out a big statement, guys. Oh, this is how Democrats will fight. We need Democrat fighters, they keep saying, right? Okay. I just filed an emergency motion in court to immediately block the ongoing and unnecessary militarization of Los Angeles. Again, ongoing and unnecessary because apparently, you know, I think Gavin Newsom's still running with a big line here. LAPD has it under control, guys. Never forget the fact that the LAPD police chief himself is on camera saying he is overwhelmed. He does not have it in control. Nonetheless, right? No, let's just put all of ICE in danger because we don't like the authoritarian optics of Donald Trump and Donald Trump so bad. Therefore, regular law enforcement officers who are doing their job and rightfully doing their job, I should add, should have their lives in danger. This is the Democrat argument for you. But again, what is it all about? They are here to actively defend the rights of violent criminals, rioters, terrorists, looters, all of the like. Now, that said, He goes on here to say that the federal government is turning the military against American citizens. This is unprecedented, guys. Apparently it's unprecedented, by the way, to deploy National Guard against rioters. Apparently that's never been said before. You know, this is unprecedented, Gavin. Letting your city burn halfway to the ground before you do anything. But of course, that is exactly what happened in 2020. And you're trying to allow it to happen here. And it also apparently threatens the very core of our democracy. Because of course, right, trying to not have violent rioting threatens the core of our democracy. Well, with that said, okay, you know, they always say we got to obey the courts. The Trump administration's trying to defy the courts. He's so bad, right? Okay. Well, in that case, let us bring you the story today of what the courts have actually said. As you can see, according to Deadline, Trump has won his bid to halt Gavin Newsom's dangerous desire for restraining orders against troops in LA over ICE raids. As you can see, as of 2:09 p.m., I believe Pacific time there, while Donald Trump is at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, talking to Army troops right now, and tensions in downtown LA between ICE protesters and armed authorities are rising with rubber bullets being fired. The president's lawyers have shut down Gavin Newsom's effort to block the federalizing of the National Guard and deployment of the U.S. Marines, at least for now. In other words, the request for temporary relief has been denied. As you can see, quote, the plaintiff, being Gavin Newsom there, Gavin Newsom's motion is legally meritless, declares a Tuesday afternoon court filing from the Trump administration to stop the California governor's motion for a temporary restraining order over the nearly 5,000 troops actually on the ground in LA. It seeks a, quote, extraordinary, unprecedented, and dangerous court order. If entered, plaintiff's proposed order would jeopardize the safety of Department of Homeland Security personnel and interfere with the federal government's ability to carry out operations. Because again, let's reiterate this, despite all these claims of martial law, despite all the talk about how armed troops are taking over the city, primarily the National Guard here is being used to protect federal officers from these violent protesters. Now, with that said, I would go so far as to make an argument, hey, screw that. I think, frankly, at this point, it is way out of control. LAPD won't do anything. I truly do believe National Guard should actually be used, frankly, to directly restore order in Los Angeles. That would, you know, if there's anything I could criticize Trump administration on, it's not this. It's not like, oh, you're using too much force. It's that actually there ought to be a more aggressive response to this in the sense that, yeah, if you're going to make the statement, this is not going to be 2020 again, then I would say as of tonight, you probably forget what Gavin Newsom says, screw him, right? He, again, wants the city to burn to the ground. Go on that response. But that would be my criticism, right? And we'll see what happens. I'm sure eventually that's going to be the case. But I just want to point that out here, right? But even that in mind, okay? Even again, considering here, the National Guard are largely not the ones doing crowd control. Okay, it's LAPD that are addressing these riots. There's a video going around with a rubber bullet of a journalist, and people are saying, oh my, but I pointed out, right? That's literally LAPD doing this, okay? And even with that in mind, even keeping the fact in mind that the National Guard are primarily being used to defend federal officers' lives, still they're suing over this. Still Gavin Newsom wants to put these people in danger, withdraw them, and the natural consequences there seem to be obvious. So while Gavin goes out and tries to say, oh, I'm condemning violence, oh, I'm really sensible on this issue, let's stop escalating. Gee, what better escalation would there be to leave federal officers, ICE, etc., defenseless from the violent mob that are your voters, you provoked through your years of rhetoric, and yet here we are. But as you can see, quote, with that argument on what POTUS's advocates terms, quote, a subject of grave importance that implicates the separations of powers, DOJ lawyers representing Trump and Pete Hegseth successfully asked U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer to push Newsom's deadline of 1 p.m. today for a temporary restraining order ruling. In a brief order posted Tuesday afternoon, Breyer agreed with the suggested timeline of Trump filing. The Bill Clinton-appointed judge wrote here, quote, the opposition shall be due by 11 a.m. on Wednesday, June 11th, 2025. Plaintiffs may file a response to that opposition by 9 a.m. on June 12th. The court will hold a hearing on the plaintiff's motion in open court by 1:30 p.m. There's been no response yet from Governor Newsom on the judge's ruling. Now, here's the thing, right? You could, of course, obviously say, hey, maybe later down the line, they do end up doing temporary relief or whatever. But to that, which I would say, right, okay, now we have 48 to 72 hours to basically get the greater situation under control, right? For now, okay, you got to figure out maybe for now, okay, now's the perfect opportunity, guys. Put down the rioting tonight. Send the National Guard, the U.S. Marines tonight, and don't let anything else get in your way there. But nonetheless, In downtown LA, after vandalism and looting on Monday night, troops are expanding the perimeter around federal buildings and pushing back the protesters. Again, key emphasis there, around federal buildings, okay? It's not crazy, it's not ridiculous for federal, military, whatever, to, of course, protect, again here, guys, federal buildings. On this fifth day of disturbances following harsh and widespread ICE raids and detentions, the aim of the LAPD is to open up streets so military convoys can access the area. In that move, so-called non-lethal rubber bullets have been fired in the area and gas masks are distributed among those in service. But again, guys, clearly, as you can totally tell, the situation is most definitely under control. The primary stated focus of the 4,000 National Guard, 700 Marines is to protect the federal buildings, as I said, in the Civic Center. Moving civilians and media out of the way, police have issued a dispersal order in the blocks around federal buildings, etc. So again, guys, want to be clear about this. That is what Gavin Newsom is opposing. He wants these federal buildings to burn to the ground. He wants the officers' lives that are in there, right? DHS, ICE, to be in danger. That is exactly here what we are dealing with. Of course, Gavin Newsom is now arguing, right, guys, that you're seeing this headline a lot, by the way. The liberals think this is somehow an own, as you can see. Troops deployed to LA will cost the government about $134 million, according to the Pentagon. Of course, people are responding by saying, oh, you guys want to cut down on the government? But what is this wasteful behavior right here, right? Gavin Newsom himself literally says $134 million that should be going to LA's fire recovery? Shameful. To which we're going to say this. First and foremost, okay, the argument by conservatives has never been that government should spend money on nothing. It's that we shouldn't spend money on wasteful things. Frankly, I would argue the defense of our cities, our homeland from violent insurrectionists and invaders. First of all, what better use of government resources, frankly? It's so funny. There's all this talk about, U.S. military being deployed against American citizens. It's so bad, all this. I look at it really and say, okay, so what you're saying is for once, the U.S. military is being deployed to actually defend America and its people from violent insurrectionists and invaders in our country? You mean they're not being deployed to the Middle East or Ukraine or somewhere else halfway around the world where, everyone's scratching their heads? What does that do for us, first and foremost? So again, necessary government expense, I would add, largely because, again, Gavin, you don't have the situation under control here, right? Number one. But also here, number two, 134 million, guys, as everyone's pointing out, by the way. How about the $50 million that Gavin Newsom has spent to make a illegal alien defense fund from deportation, right? To defend California's illegals from deportation. $50 million, that's $50 million that could have gone to the fire relief. Other people have pointed out here that $24 million were spent by Gavin Newsom's administration to eradicate homelessness, and they somehow made it worse. I don't know how you do that with that many millions. Or, of course, the billions of dollars, by the way, currently being consumed by illegal aliens on Medi-Cal, the state's form of Medicaid there. So, these are the people lecturing us because we're using public dollars, guys, for once to actually restore safety and restore order on our streets. Gee, absolutely unbelievable. Gavin Newsom, by the way, is yet to put out an order about his setback today in court. But nonetheless, here is the new, new thing they're fighting over. Because again, Gavin Newsom here, while claiming, Donald Trump's a child, is being this ridiculously petty. He's now fighting, guys, over a phone call. Okay, he's claiming that Trump never called me because he said that he called me yesterday, but he actually called me the day before that, and so there was no phone call. It's like the dumbest argument ever, right? These are the people who call Donald Trump childish, by the way. They say Donald Trump's like a man-child in power, and yet this is what they're doing. Guys, this all started in a press conference that took place, as you can see here, on June 10th, 2025, where a reporter asked Gavin Newsom, quote, when is the last time you spoke with Governor Newsom? And this is what he had to say. And then we'll show you, right, this rather benign clip, what Gavin Newsom took from it. And again, the stupid, ridiculous political fighting that ensued here.
President, when is the last time you spoke with Governor Newsom?
A day ago. Called him up to tell him, got to do a better job. He's doing a bad job, causing a lot of death and a lot of potential death. If we didn't send out the National Guard, and last time we gave them a little additional help, you would have, Los Angeles would be burning right now. Los Angeles would be not a lot different than what you saw take place in California and Los Angeles just a little while ago.
Okay, so out of that fairly, benign clip, what do you think Gavin Newsom's response was to all of that? Do you think, hilariously here, do you think he even responded to the claim that he was doing a bad job or he was a bad governor? No. Here's what Gavin Newsom does. By the way, like I said, imagine if he fought this hard to stop the rioting, as he did with this stuff. But anyways, Gavin Newsom here says, quote, "There was no call, not even a voicemail." So according to Gavin Newsom, Trump never called him, right? Americans should be alarmed that a president deploying Marines onto our streets doesn't even know who he's talking to. So apparently, right, Trump's claiming, oh my, wow. He said he called Gavin Newsom, but he never did. By the way, Gavin has spent the entire day on X being obsessed with this after he continues to ignore the fact the judge ruled in Trump's favor tonight. Nonetheless, John Roberts here, as you can see, of Fox News, actually responded by pointing out here that, quote, "President Trump just contacted me from Air Force One to say this. Quote, first call was not picked up. Second call, Gavin picked up and we spoke for 16 minutes. I told him to essentially get his ass in gear and stop the riots, which were out of control. More than anything else, this shows what a liar he is. Said I never called. Here is the evidence." Because keep in mind, right? Gavin Newsom doesn't say the call happened on a different day. He says there was no call, not even a voicemail. Okay? The implication of that being they never even spoke. And yet clearly Trump here is saying they spoke. So what's the evidence? As you can see here, Donald Trump has sent the receipts to John Roberts of Fox News. So here you go, right? The iPhone thing, Gavin Newsom here, blah, 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 going down here. Okay. June 7th, 2025. As you can see, outgoing call for 4 seconds. Okay. So that's where he hung up. 1:23 a.m. Outgoing call there, as you can see, for 16 minutes. So there was a phone call. Gavin Newsom saying there was no phone call. There was a phone call, okay? Now, they're going to say, oh, Trump got the day wrong by like 2 days. Okay, fine. But there objectively was a phone call here. And what did Gavin Newsom say? Gavin Newsom didn't say, oh, we talked earlier in the week, he misremembered. He said there was no phone call. The implication of that being, oh, they never even spoke, right? You can read it over again, right? Gavin Newsom here is implying they never freaking spoke. They did freaking speak. And here is John Roberts providing the evidence of that, which I'm going to point out later in the video. But Gavin Newsom does not actually dispute, showing here it is not a photoshopped image or anything, because, if that were the case, Gavin would probably say that, right? Take a listen.
On between Gavin Newsom and President Trump. Gavin Newsom, after President Trump said in the noon hour in the Oval Office that he called him yesterday or the other day, Gavin Newsom tweeted the following. He said, quote, "There was no call, not even a voicemail. Americans should be alarmed that a president deploying Marines on our streets doesn't even know who he's talking to." Well, President Trump contacted me from Air Force One on his way to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where he'll be in just a little while. He said the first call to Gavin Newsom was not picked up. The second call Gavin picked up. We spoke for 16 minutes. I told him to essentially, quote, and this is quoting the president, "get his ass in gear and stop the riots, which were out of control more than anything else. This shows what a liar he is. Said I never called." So here is the evidence. And here is the call log that the president sent me from his phone. This was June the 7th. Now, granted, this was on Saturday. But look, there's 1:22 o'clock in the morning, which would have been 10 o'clock at night, 10:22 at night, California time. There was an outgoing call for 4 seconds. And then there was an outgoing call for 16 minutes. So that from the president, which says is proof that he spoke to Gavin Newsom early in the morning, our time, late at night, Friday night, would have been June 6th, I guess, in Los Angeles. So, Governor, over to you for the response.
I was say that's next, right? We're waiting to see what if Governor Newsom has a response to the president's. Essentially, what he has there is the receipt for what he says is the call that was made.
It's all about the
long conversation. Yeah, exactly. In a 16-minute conversation. As you mentioned, as things were heating up is the timing of that call, as things were really just beginning to get started. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes.
But there's no phone call, Gavin Newsom is stating here. Again, hilariously, right? I will objectively say he's using the situation to distract, because notice how Gavin literally does not address the claim that he's doing a bad job or that the riots are out of control. No, none of that. It's just, hey, you said it was on Monday, but it was actually on Saturday. Ha ha, I got you, man. Who cares? Okay, who cares? The point is what? There was a phone call. You are doing a horrible job as governor. So you're trying to distract with the dumbest thing of all time. Okay, again, there was a phone call. You want to be a smart aleck about it? Okay, I could do that back to you. There was a phone call. Oh, but it was actually on Saturday, well, not on Monday. Dude, your state is on fire. Okay, Gavin? Do you care to address that? You know, you're posting these memes about Star Wars, which you did today, you know, like a Palpatine edit of Trump or something. You're saying, oh, you called me on Saturday, but said it was the Monday. Yeah, Gavin, care to address the fact that your state is on fire? How about that, huh? Care to address the fact that you lost in court today? Are you going to? No. The phone call, guys. The phone call. Okay. Gavin Newsom here, as you can see, responds by saying, if only he had shown the right ones. Trump doesn't even know what day it is. Funny joke, Gavin. Again, your state is on fire, huh? What, Trump doesn't know what day it is? Okay, well, you don't know what there was no phone call means, okay? It's just ridiculous. As you can see, people are in the comments just pointing out these screenshots, right? They're fighting over the time zones, by the way, because like June 7th would be Saturday. 1:23 a.m. would be Saturday in Eastern time. That'd be June 6th in Pacific time. Just, okay, like I said, just complete nonsense. Other people are pointing out here that Gavin Newsom has a rich history of lying about presidential phone calls. Of course, who could forget this video out of California where that woman was absolutely crushing Gavin Newsom for his ridiculous and failed leadership in the state over the wildfires. But guys, Donald Trump misremembered something by 2 days. Can you believe that? But I have the situation totally under control. Actually, let's ask the people that, okay? What is a bigger and more important misstatement? Donald Trump saying we talked on Monday when it was actually on a Saturday, or Gavin Newsom saying that the situation in LA is fully under control when people were burning it to the ground? I mean, which one is worse? Like, which one has actual impacts on people? You know, I'm going to take a wild guess there, right? But as you can see, this today just continues to get worse for Gavin Newsom. So he's humiliated over the phone call thing because Trump brought the receipts, and Gavin actually, despite his little stupid semantic argument, he's wrong. Okay, he's wrong about this. Secondly, you have, of course, the judge siding with Donald Trump on the timeline for the temporary restraining order decision there. And as you can see here, you know, despite all this talk about how, oh, Donald Trump's losing people with this, the people didn't vote for this, the decision to deploy National Guard to stop rioting, that's so bad. Well, Democrats continue to be on the wrong side of every single issue. They continue to get brutal reality checks here because, as you can see, breaking news per an InsiderAdvantage poll, by a whopping margin of 20 points, guys, 20 points, basically 60-40, 20 points. Americans approve of President Trump sending the National Guard to the LA riots, according to InsiderAdvantage. This includes 56% of independents support that decision and 37% of Democrats. This is, of course, after 2 straight days, right, of the media saying, martial law, not working out so well, right? And again, guys, I'm going to once again reiterate here, the only people surprised by that are Los Angeles residents, Democrat consultants, etc. Because it's pretty common sense, actually. People in this country generally are fans of law and order, it turns out. And yeah, the idea, as we're going to keep on saying here, of deploying National Guard to put down rioting is not unprecedented. Generally speaking, the average American, especially in the middle of the country, is more inclined to side with the military stopping the rioting than the rioters themselves, okay? But there you have it. So again, you know, this, as we said, you know, initially, even on the issue of the deportations, right? The Democrats think they're winning on this. They think, oh, if we fearmonger about Kilmar Garcia now, you know, doing what they're doing if we protest, that'll work out really well for us. But poll after poll keeps showing, right? Deportations and immigration are Donald Trump's most popular issue number one. But then now, right? They think this is their big thing. Oh, Donald Trump's an authoritarian, guys. He's pushing too far. He's deploying National Guard. Oh, newsflash. Boing again, right? The American people support that. People support law and order. People, actually in general, right, don't want a nation full of lawlessness. That's a big reason they voted for the Republican Party in November over the Democrats. It's kind of a universal trend. And yeah, I mean, are you exactly surprised to see what is happening now? No, you shouldn't be. Nonetheless, Gavin Newsom does not appear to be taking any of this very well. In fact, take a listen here to the absolutely insane meltdown that he's been having on media as of late. And yeah, I don't know if this is the most mentally stable individual at this point, but take a listen.
I mean, it's, again, sober and serious moment. Meanwhile, can I just add, you know, and this is why I told the president, just get it over with. Arrest me. Move on. If you need some head to scalp, do it with me, but stop messing with these kids. Stop messing with 4-year-olds, kids in elementary school. We've got kids. We have hundreds of graduations down here. Kids are not going to their own graduations. Families, grandparents here legally, mixed status families in some cases, scared to death to go to a graduation. People are scared to walk down the streets. It's not just Home Depots getting their car washed. We have incidences. I didn't believe it because what was I thinking? I actually believed when they said this is not true. But then I saw videos that they're doing checkpoints, checking people's IDs. We've never seen this kind of deployment in so many actions. It's mass panic out here in the nation's largest county, in the nation's largest state. Good, hardworking people, decent people. These are not the criminals. These are not the thugs.
Well, first of all, as we covered in the last video, actually, they are the criminals and the thugs. Because, for instance, when it came to the ICE raid you came on Friday, ICE was actually serving several known arrest warrants for criminals and thugs. And we covered, by the way, a lot of those people are actually criminals and thugs. Okay, number one. Number two, though, here, right? I love this is a mass panic going on. And what is this evidence of that? They're checking IDs. People are checking IDs. That's the most Democrat thing ever. People are checking IDs. This is mass panic. This is authoritarianism, guys. Okay. Well, nonetheless, while the Democrats just be absolutely hysterical about this, I don't even know what I want to argue at this point besides, see how that goes in the midterms. I please beg you. Please, going into 2026, keep deportations, keep immigration as a top issue. Try your very hardest to make sure the election is not just a referendum on Trump, but specifically a referendum on Trump and immigration. And needless to say, I think they're in for a rude awakening, okay? Because these people are in denial every single time we try to tell them. The American people are not where you are in immigration, nor are they where you are in law and order. The poll after poll continues to show that. You want to keep fighting this? Gavin Newsom, hey, 2028, man, you want to make this your grandstand? Go ahead. I dare you, right? See what happens politically and electorally in that case. With that said, though, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. What do you think of the court decision? What do you think of course, Gavin Newsom's just manic meltdown over all this? Let me know. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.